Hey guys, welcome to episode 19 of Operation PlayStation. I'm one of your hosts, Dash, along with my co-host, and he's happy, Mr. Paul Jakes.
What a day. Or what a day it was yesterday, I don't know. Yeah,
well, by the time it's published yesterday.
Holy shit.
Data recording is the 22nd.
My blood pressure is through the roof today. Some people might be, questioning, did he have the baby? Because, of course, we've been talking about that. No, the baby's still coming. Like, I don't know when that's going to happen. I thought the baby bomb would have gone off. It hasn't.
Friday, yeah.
Fucking Xbox. For a whole myriad of reasons today, but we'll dive into some of them through the news. But
yeah, believe it or not, we're going to be talking about Xbox on the PlayStation podcast again.
No, discussing the competition is important. Or
correct.
The competition.
Well, in this regards, it will be important, especially in comparative reasons. But guys, if you didn't know, this is Operation PlayStation-Gamer.com. Dedicated play. I can't stop smiling because of all the reactions that you gave me today. It was great. Dashgamer.com's dedicated PlayStation podcasts. As we dive deep and dirty and discover what the latest and greatest PlayStation have to offer, including next-gen gaming. If you like what you hear tonight, and trust me, you're going to love it, make sure that you subscribe to us over on SoundCloud, iTunes, and Spotify. Give us those cheeky 5-star ratings.
Let's go. We're good. Let's go.
And also catch us the VOD on Dashgamer.com.
Stop dragging us down, Dash.
And on YouTube, subscribe, hit that bell, give us a like, leave a comment. It surely helps us out. Padge, give us your housekeeping.
So the usual 2 episodes of Dev Diary to promote. The most recent one, which features Colin Moriarty. A lot of people know him from Sacred Symbols, and I guess not better. We're the top dogs, but a far more popular PlayStation podcast, that's for sure. And a long history of doing it. But also, he's gotten into the development scene in recent years, so he's been doing a bit of work there, working on some little indie titles.
Yep.
And the upcoming guest, which by the time this goes live, you'll see the announcement. Most people have worked it out anyway, because I've not been super subtle with the clues that have gone out there. Kevin Van Ord, who a lot of people know used to work at GameSpot, and these days he is over at Larian Studios working on currently Baldur's Gate 3, but he's also worked on Divinity Original Sin 2 as a writer. So it's a really cool walk. Going from the media side to the actual development scene, picking up, moving your life from from the US and moving to Brussels. He's done some stuff to get involved, so that's one to check out as well. And then I've also got a couple of written pieces that I've done this week. I do those sometimes.
Oh, no.
I put together a review for Mario 3D All-Stars, and I put a piece out discussing, kind of building on some of the stuff that actually we discussed in the Ops episode from last week, about the PS5 event, discussing the God of War release date and looking at some reasons why not, or cases for and against the 2021 supposed release date, which apparently is, ruffled a few feathers.
Yeah,
who'd have thought?
Yeah, I know. We discussed it. Oh, I discussed it with Ryan Betson from For the Players, and look, it's supposedly 2021, but it'll be 2022. Like we both said, there is no way given, no how that they are about to release that title next year, and it's going to be impossible.
So for that, I say to anyone who's questioning, go check out the article. I've got a few reasons for and a few against. So trying to explore both sides of the argument, but let's be real, it's not coming out next year.
No. Guys, for dashgamer.com, we have a 13 Sentinels Argus Rim review out, thanks to 5-Star Games. Ewan Hosey, our newest contributor, actually.
Come on, you're a weeb. It's Aegis Rim.
Oh, it doesn't matter.
Come on.
I don't know this stuff.
You're a dirty weeb, and you should know that word.
No, I don't, actually. Kingdoms of Amalur, also written by Ewan Hosey. Kingdoms of Amalur Re-Reckoning, I should say, which is the re-release of the 2012 RPG classic. So make sure you guys check out those reviews. Operation PlayStation episode 18 from last week, if you are unaware, but you should be aware, came out right on the day of price and consoles hitting pre-order, so make sure you check out that one. It was quite a fun episode to do. Dash Gaming Podcast episode 18 also came out during the week due to the fact that we did it over Generosity, the charity event during PAX Online. First time you're seeing me on a PAX panel ever. Probably the only time. So make sure you guys check. It's a PAX panel. Make sure you guys check that out. It's a PAX panel. All right. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, thanks to the kind folk at Activision. We reviewed that this week. Make sure you check that out. And NBA 2K21 by Mike Pullman review. Thanks to 2K Games Australia. Padge, let's not waste any time. Let's just do it. Let's get into the news. All right, Padge, the first bit of news comes by way tonight from Shannon over at Press Start, who says Microsoft has acquired Bethesda to bolster the Xbox lineup. This is a big one, and it's one that I'm surprised he went to bed early last night, and I was like, Padge's gonna wake up shit in the bed this morning reading this. Microsoft...
And my Twitter reactions 100% reflected that. Then I saw the comment you made.
Yeah, Microsoft has announced the acquisition of Bethesda, which will see the likes of Elder Scrolls Fallout, Wolfenstein, Doom, Dishonored, Quake, Starfield, and more join Team Xbox. The announcement comes on the eve of the Xbox Series X pre-orders going live. In a blog post on the Xbox Wire by head of Xbox, Phil Spencer announced that Microsoft had entered into an agreement to acquire ZeniMax Media, parent company of Bethesda Softworks. It's reported that Microsoft paid $7.5 billion for ZeniMax and Bethesda, 3 times what they paid for Mojang and Microsoft.
And more than Star Wars Minecraft. Or Marvel.
Mojang and Minecraft, not Microsoft, sorry. This, yeah, and exactly what Padge just said. This means that Xbox now own the below franchises. Dishonored, Wolfenstein, The Elder Scrolls, Fallout, Doom, Starfield, The Evil Within, Prey, Deathloop, and Ghostwire Tokyo. Microsoft do say that all these Bethesda franchises will join Xbox Game Pass on day one, but don't necessarily go on to say if these franchises will become Xbox exclusives. It's interesting because Bethesda games such as Deathloop and Ghostwire Tokyo is set to be PS5 console exclusives. It's a little bit unclear what this means for the future. Last night, myself and Betson were up, and this news hit at 11 p.m. And my first reaction was, what the fuck? This is huge. And then I kind of sat back and had a look at the list of games that they had there. And I said to Betson last night, okay, this is pretty big. You've got Doom. You've got Wolfenstein. But then I go back and...
You call Doom, like, pretty good. You're a clown.
Well, hold on a second. Doom is pretty good. All right? It's not excellent. Yeah, we're not talking like... Excellent. We're not... Hold on a second. We've got plenty of first-person shooters out there right now that outclass Doom. Okay? Doom is an arcade shooter.
Oh, that's cool, but that doesn't make it a lesser title than Call of Duty or Battlefield. No, or
I'm not saying
Halo
it's lesser. I'm not saying it's not worth it. I'm not calling it top tier in terms of everything that it can do above its competition.
I mean, I guess it boils down to something subjective. Like I'd call Doom Eternal top 5 this year so far, and that's given the year we've had, and could still very well have with the likes of Cyberpunk and whatnot still to come.
Just because you were in the accolades trailer.
Yeah, but I said that before the... I said what I got to say before the review went live. I wasn't backwards and coming forwards about that game. But anyway, continue with the rest of the list. Though.
What was your reaction anyway to waking up and seeing this?
Look, shit, the bed was about right. And conveniently enough, I happened to be there, so just ticked all the boxes. Look, this is an incredible get for Xbox, and it really does... Like, as I own both consoles. Mm-hmm. Well, I will own both consoles. We'll talk about that shortly.
Yep.
It was a bit of a kick in the teeth as someone who, as much as I own both, I do obviously sway the side of PlayStation. And to know that there's a prospect that I won't get to play Elder Scrolls or Fallout, it's shit, Doom or Starfield or a few of those different IP there on a PlayStation platform potentially ever again was like it kind of sucks. And then thinking about the implications that has for the PlayStation platform going forward and what that could do to sales, and there's a snowball effect here in terms of Bethesda's jumped ship, there's less incentive for people to buy consoles, so all of a sudden other companies, it's what we've seen with console generations in the past, that third parties come and go based on what is the most attractive console for consumers at the time.
Correct.
And Bethesda's still there's some titles, and I know that you're not as enamored with a number of them.
Yeah.
But there's pockets of people that live and breathe Dishonored. There's pockets of people that live and breathe Wolfenstein, and and obviously the everything that comes out of BGS, and they've got communities all over the place, and they're all going to be shifting. Well, they're not all going to be shifting potentially, but a fair portion is going to shift over to Xbox because it's the only way that they believe they can access some of these games. Now, it may not be the case, and Shannon notes in the article, and I'm sure like he's seen further information since that it doesn't affect Deathloop or Ghostwire Tokyo whatsoever. Those exclusives are locked in, and they will still come to PlayStation exactly as intended. It'll just be a little bit weird to see the Microsoft splash screen at the beginning, but that may not even be the case either because the deal actually gets completed next year.
Yeah.
I think it's meant to be later next year. Like it's going to take a little while to work through and I guess transfer money and do all this.
Can you imagine?
Cash deal.
Can you imagine booting the game up on a PlayStation 5 and seeing Xbox Game Studios pop up?
Well, don't we already see that with Outer Worlds or Minecraft
on PlayStation?
I have to admit I haven't played.
I don't think so.
Yet.
No, I don't think not Minecraft on PlayStation.
But Outer Worlds is probably a good chance.
Probably.
The ink had dried at that particular point, even though it was a private division gig still.
I don't remember. I don't recall. I don't think so. Yeah, but yeah,
I haven't played it yet, so and let alone on PlayStation, so I don't know. But look, another thing that's crazy, and look, checking my distaste for Fallout at the door for a second.
Mm-hmm.
They've now brought in. They've obviously already got Bethesda Game Studios themselves, but like they've got Obsidian, and they've brought in Exile in recent years as well. So now they've got every single company that has ever been involved with the Fallout franchise all under one house together. That's kind of crazy because you've had people going, oh, but we want Fallout New Vegas too. Sorry, we can't. Obsidian owns them. Oh, but there's a lesser group here, but a pocket of people saying we'd love to see some old school Fallout. Now that's possible as well. Like that franchise's potential has just exploded as a result of this. Not to mention there was obviously ZeniMax Online. Which team worked on 76? Was it ZeniMax Online?
It was ZeniMax Online, no. I think. Oh, I'll find out.
No, because they're working on ESO. I can't remember exactly who was involved, but
I was directly them.
Well, they were in part, but there was another team. I'm just going blank on the name of the team.
It's Bethesda Softworks, Bethesda Game Studio, and Bethesda Studios Austin.
It was the Austin team. That was the main one taking charge, and that was why it was okay. But there's a lot of IP here that's going to be speaking to lots of different pockets of the community on its own. And this is where the personal taste thing comes in. I look at that list and go, Dishonored doesn't really do it for me. Wolfenstein, I liked the first of the reboots, but then the ones that kind of spun off that in the sequel, I didn't enjoy. Elder Scrolls, that'd be fantastic, but regardless of this, we're still probably waiting till 2026.
Yeah. So that would have been my next question to you. Where do you think Elder Scrolls 6 sits right now? Because actually before that, where do you think in development cycle? Because I think that they probably haven't scraped.
It's still not even in pre-production, really.
Yeah.
I mean, they are still, the transaction means nothing here. It is still next in the queue after Starfield. So, Starfield still hasn't been shown any further since that debut trailer. So, when you add COVID on top of things, that could even, they might have been shooting for next year. That could slip to 2022. And then
Starfield,
Starfield. So then you've got to start development of Elder Scrolls 6 after that.
It'll be 2026. Now, with that said, being that far away, you can't discount the fact that it may be an Xbox exclusive.
So my big thing out of this, and I've debated it with several people over the course of the day. Phil Spencer did come out and say, "Look, it's gonna be pick and choose, and it's not gonna be. They're not just gonna go hard cut off PlayStation. They are gonna kind of pick and choose, and where it suits. There might even be some timed exclusives and those sorts of things along the way to kind of lure people in, but not actually, hold these games back from PlayStation people. There's a lot of money in that.
Yeah.
For them to bring it over. I've just gone blank on the question now. After all.
No, that's all right. It's a good segue to what we're about to talk about, which is Liam Croft over at Push Square, who says, the Elder Scrolls Online PS4 support unaffected by Microsoft's acquisition. It's probably not exactly, it's probably not the exact title you were hoping to hear, but as an example of how Microsoft's purchase of ZeniMax Media won't affect its support for PlayStation platforms, The Elder Scrolls Online will continue to receive updates, patches, and DLC for Sony's range of systems. In fact, the two companies are excited about how the acquisition could make The Elder Scrolls Online even better. In a tweet posted to the game's official Twitter account, studio director Matt Farrell said, quote,
First ever guest on Dev Diary, so thanks, Matt.
Quote, I want to take this moment to reassure the entire Elder Scrolls Online community that ESO will continue to be supported exactly as it was, and we fully expect it to keep growing and thriving on each of the platforms that are currently supported. We're very happy with the news and can't wait to see how the two companies working together can make ESO even better for everyone, end quote. Farah goes on to thank the community that has grown around the Elder Scrolls Online and promises more support for the years to come. Now, with that said, there was a statement put out by Phil Spencer pertaining to what's happening that basically said that, hey, with titles, it'll be a case-by-case scenario for future releases, but with the games that are guaranteed right now for PS5 and its support, they'll get that. Before anything, I'll say that I see this playing out as a timed matter. They say, okay, how many contracts have we got to fulfill? Fine, they'll end up on PS5. Once we hit that cutoff, forget it. It's either going to be on our units, Game Pass, or PC.
Yeah, see, I'm not as firmly of that mind. I think we'll eventually get to that point, and I can't believe I'm talking about this given that the new consoles haven't arrived. But next gen, so PS6, if I just, just like kind of, that's where there's going to be a hard cutoff. I'm firmly of the mind that there's going to be a hard cutoff there because people are at that. Well, if it exists, yeah. I mean, that is a whole other thing. But I think that's when we see this very hard cutoff, and presumably also at that point, Game Pass has proliferated to some point where it actually is even more accessible than ever before. It could very well be, we're talking about another 7 years from now, presumably. It could be the app on your TV at that stage. But I think that's where the cutoff emerges. So we might get Elder Scrolls 6 and it'll come to PlayStation. Yeah. We'll get Fallout 5, it'll come to PlayStation.
Yeah.
Probably not with Bethesda Game Studios because it'll take 20 years. But we are going to see some of these games. There might be timed exclusives. There might be incentives to lure you across to Xbox, but they're not going to hard cut off people because Xbox is still all about goodwill for their for consumers and the players, and they despite all these purchases and moves they're making, the player is still at the forefront.
Yeah,
and I think, and they are still conscientious of what that even means for the PlayStation fan, and we've seen that in the Outer Worlds with Minecraft. I had no doubt in my mind that Elder Scrolls Online was going to come across because of Minecraft. To use that as it's an ongoing game. It was always going to continue to get support. It'll get a PS5 version as well, and it'll be fine. Microsoft has got no issues. PlayStation wouldn't do that, but Microsoft have got no issues doing it whatsoever, because they're seeing it's kind of the player as the service now. They've got Game Pass, and it's a totally different approach to release structure of games now, and so I think PlayStation people still get a chance. There'll be a few new IPs. That's where PlayStation fans might lose. So that's a temptation then.
So I've pulled up the article again prior, the first article that we read with the list of games, the list of franchises that Shannon listed here, which was Dishonored, Wolfenstein, Elder Scrolls, Fallout, Doom, Starfield, Evil Within, Prey, Deathloop, and Ghostwire. Now, I'm going to ignore Deathloop and Ghostwire because they're obviously going to be on PlayStation, and honestly, it's their first entry in each franchise there.
Yep.
With the rest of them. Now, this acquisition confuses me a little bit because if I go back and have a look at some of the titles, Dishonored, it got mixed reception. Honestly, the numbers that sold, nobody played.
No, the sales reception was bad. The critical thing was incredible. And don't get me wrong, I'm not a big fan of the game myself.
It was mixed. The first one was mixed.
No, go back and take a look at the numbers.
Wolfenstein, Youngblood, terrible game.
Yeah, I mean that wasn't the core team. That's a big thing with that. But
yeah, either way, it still wasn't that good of a game.
I have some Metacritic numbers for you. Dishonored got a 91. Dishonored 2 is an 88.
I don't know. I heard mixed
Sorry, I'm not a
things,
big fan of it myself.
No.
I might be one of those voices.
But it was I heard mixed reception, man. Like, you can take critical acclaim and Metacritic and whatever, but we're talking like months later down the line where people are picking up the game and going, "It wasn't for me."
Yeah, there's that. It's an acquired taste.
Exactly. So yeah, once again, Wolfenstein had their latest entry of Youngblood. It wasn't that great. Elder Scrolls speaks for itself. Its numbers speak for itself. Yeah. Fallout, again, numbers speak for itself. However, 76 sucked. It sucked. Yeah. And the only good thing to come out of it is the caveat that Obsidian may be making a sequel to New Vegas. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe not. I'd probably rather.
Well, actually, Obsidian last night tweeted, responded to that tweet.
Thing.
So they're keen in, yes, we're making a New Vegas. Shut up. So it's basically like, just sit there and be quiet. We're making a New Vegas. Don't say anything. Or don't, stop bothering us.
I mean, I think that's a reach, only because this is a team that's working on the, obviously already the Outer Worlds, and arguably the Outer Worlds has got a bit more cachet than Fallout these days in terms of actual positivity. There's a few people burnt by the way Fallout 4 came out because it wasn't all that great. It was just more Fallout 3, and then 76. The Outer Worlds might be a more valuable property at this point. But then on top of that, they're also working on Avowed, which is that Skyrim-like RPG that is going to demand a lot of their resources. And there's Grounded.
Look, I'm not trying to downplay this purchase. It's huge. I'm not also trying to say that Bethesda are a shit publisher. They have some great developers making some good games. But a lot of the titles that have come out in the recent generation have been from, like, the majority of titles have been mixed. There's probably been, you could cherry pick a few that have had a positive reception. But then there's developers out there that have done a better job at their own game, like the Outer Worlds.
Yeah.
Did a better Fallout game than Fallout. You know what I mean? So it's like, okay, it's a great it's a fantastic purchase. At $7.5 billion, of course, ZeniMax will be like, give us the cash, here's Bethesda for you. But at the same time, I believe that Microsoft also trying to basically congregate all these studios under their banner to kind of, I don't know.
It's an optics thing.
Well, it is an optics thing, because then afterwards they have banners with studios, and these names, these big names are all over, surrounded by a big Xbox logo, and people think, wow, Xbox is really the home of gaming. Is it really? Because I don't think, fine, you got franchises with big names attached to them, but it's not anything that grand.
They've rapidly become the home of the Western art, like the WRPG and the first-person shooter. I mean, between, you had Doom and Halo, and on top of Wolfenstein and, Prey, whatever.
Yeah.
Deathloop's an interesting first-person shooter. But yeah, you add Starfield, Fallout, Elder Scrolls on top of the fact they already own Wasteland. They've got Fable that's coming back. I'm sure I'm going blank, but everything that Obsidian does. Like, if you want Western RPGs, and there's a lot of people that do, you need to own an Xbox, because you'll get all those that I just listed, and then through third party, that's where you'll get your chance to play Cyberpunk or Mass Effect or anything that BioWare does. If you're a Western RPG guy, you may as well go to Xbox, because the only thing you're going to miss is a big one in Horizon. But, it's 1 versus 20 almost at this point. Like, they've created a very compelling thing there for prospective buyers.
Last question regarding this. Do you think that they signed this with a caveat or a loophole exit clause kind of deal?
Nah.
Yeah, neither
this thing's done. This is rock solid.
Yeah.
The only little caveats there were probably for the likes of Todd Howard to make sure he stayed.
Probably more than likely. Well, the money's there, that's for sure. He'll be there forever.
You can take a big slice of that pie.
The following is what I've been waiting for. Comes by way from Shannon over at Press Start. Here we go, Padge. The Xbox Series X sold out in Australia in record time. Shannon goes on to say, 2020 is the year that keeps giving. I'm sure it does. I think I can say that confidently that the Xbox Series X has sold out in Australia in Australia faster than any console before it. It's unclear if it's a case of low stock bots the fact that people had 2 weeks to get ready for, or a combination of all three. But the Xbox Series X is mostly sold out now at all retailers in Australia. Right now, Amazon is the only retailer that we're still waiting to go live. By the way, time of recording this, they have gone live. They have sold out of their shipment as well. So keep refreshing to your heart's content, Shannon says. EB Games was probably the hardest hit, with seemingly over thousands of people almost seeing the website at once. By the way, Shannon released the optics in that one. 3,000 clicks off his link from the Press Start Twitter account.
That was just the Target link, not even to EB.
Yeah. The Microsoft store followed before Telstra. The Microsoft store followed before Telstra, Harvey Norman, JB Hi-Fi, and other retailers except Amazon, potentially Target and Big W, seemingly ran out of stock insanely fast. EB Games will now launch post-launch stock at 12 p.m., which actually went to 3 p.m. rather than 12 p.m. If these GameStop numbers by Wario64, which is something that I'm surprised nobody's been highlighting today, are to be believed, it looks though as stock was incredibly low in the US, and there's reason to believe that it was the same case here. Wario64 tweeted, "Some numbers I heard for GameStop per allocations for Xbox Series pre-orders. So Series X got 6 to 12 per store, and then Series S got 2 to 4 per store." Now you got to take this also with a pinch of salt, or a grain of salt, I should say, because GameStop stores in America, there's like one on every corner. It's like a McDonald's over there. So allocation would be spread quite thin over there, while EB Games is kind of different here. While there is one in every freaking plaza here, they're not essentially...
well, the shopping centers themselves aren't as prolific.
No, they're not.
Prominent, yeah.
That's right. Shannon goes on to say, while this was handled in the complete opposite manner to last week's PlayStation 5 pre-orders, the Xbox Series X and S definitely sold out a lot quicker than the PS5 did. When we asked in both our Facebook groups as well as Twitter, it feels like the people who missed out far outweigh those who managed to sneak an order in. And by the way, I want to give a shout out to Shannon and the Press Start crew. They did an amazing job today, trying to get people to get a pre-order. And they did the same thing last week with PlayStation 5, where
and the RTX 3080 and all those sorts of things too.
Correct.
Not that had a chance in hell for anyone.
So big shout out to Shannon and the Press Start crew. Page, floor's yours.
Have at it. All right. So, firstly, maybe we'll recount the day a little bit. So I got up at my usual time, woken up by my son at about 6 o'clock. I'm like, all right, that's all right. I'll set an alarm for 7:50 just so I don't miss the pre-orders. 8 o'clock rolls along and I'm there. I'm ready, just like what I was for PlayStation when they kind of surprise dropped last week. And
by the way, I called that.
Had it in the cart, put in the credit card details, and all of a sudden I'm starting to error out. This is on the EB website, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Missed out on a pre-order. That came as a nasty surprise, but because there's launch, poof, gone.
Yep.
Now, a little bit of extra emotion kind of stirring there, because it turns out Matt Hughes and a lot of other Player 2 folk couldn't get their hands on it. Please don't bring up my Twitter feed here, because holy shit, you'll see the rants of an angry man.
Why?
Feel free. I don't care. Go for it. So, it was a sort of rough day, and then they announced for 12 o'clock, and then they changed that at the last minute. Thanks, EB, for giving me the shits there, because I pushed my son to bed earlier so that we could, so I could be out in time to do that. Then 3 o'clock rolls along, and I missed those ones as well, and everyone else is in the same boat. Finally managed. There was a Target thing that popped up. Managed to get that. Still don't have a confirmation email there.
Wow.
So that'd be nice if you could just let me know whether I actually have it or not, because that's day one.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Then finally, like, was it 5:30, something like that this afternoon, 6 o'clock? Finally, a final wave. Well, yeah, actually a final wave, because just before we went live tonight, EB confirmed that they're now sold out as well.
Yep.
Finally managed to land both an S. Well, actually, I managed to get an S at the end of the 3 o'clock wave, and then after I gave up on the X because it got sold out. And finally managed to land an X at the very end of the day there. Now, both of these are listed for 2020, so that's a good start. But holy shit. Like, everyone last week, and we've got an article here that we'll kind of throw to eventually at some point, everyone last week spoke about how horrible the PlayStation thing was, and you can't just drop it like that because people are going to miss out. More people, and I can't wait till the US goes through this over the course of the next 24 hours, and other regions of the world as well. I cannot wait to see what we're a very small slice of the pie.
Yeah.
It's going to be so much worse around America and Europe over the course of the next few days, because the main reason why the EB site crashed is firstly the fact that their system is shithouse and that they really dropped the ball there and cost a lot of people pre-orders. But secondly, it's because we set a day, date, and time, so every single bot, every little sniper, every little fuckwit behind their computer was ready to go to snap all these pricks up. PlayStation didn't make that mistake.
So the time we're recording this right now is 8:32 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, which is 6:32 a.m. Time in New York City.
We're an hour and a half away.
An hour and a half before pre-orders open in New York. I'm unsure what are the...
Actually, I think it might have been one set time, like it'd been like 8 a.m. PST, or it's 8 a.m. But I think it might be.
You're right. It is Pacific time.
So then they've got a little bit more time.
Oh, so they do. So it's 3:32 a.m. Pacific time.
So it'll be like 11 o'clock for them.
Right.
Yeah.
So we'll be asleep by then. But okay. So here's my
shit's gonna hit the fan.
So here's my day. Got up. I set my alarm. Set 3. 7:30, 7:40, and 7:45. But I woke up at 7. So I was already ready. Had my coffee in hand, sat at the computer, waited a little bit, said my good morning to you boys. Okay, here we go. Same thing. Counter on the screen like PlayStation 5. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Into the checkout bin. All right. Pre-order. Okay, error has occurred. Oh, whatever. Pre-order. An error has occurred. What the fuck? Pre-order. An error has occurred. Are you kidding me right now?
Did it reject your credit card after a while because you'd made too many attempts?
No.
Oh.
So what it did, right, was EB Games' website had kicked me out and logged me out, right?
Yeah,
at this point.
It's same to me too.
And I'm like, what the fuck? All right, fine. Log in. This is an incorrect password. I'm like, no, it's not. Log in. Incorrect password. Do the password again. And I'm logged in. Here we go. Checkout. No. Checkout. No. Checkout. No. It bounced me out. What the fuck? And then I noticed that I was like, this can't just be me. So I went back to Twitter and everybody's going off their head. And the one person that I'm noticing in all caps, Paul, but also Kieran from Well Played also had the same problem as I did, where he was getting kicked out of the checkout cart. And every time he tried to log in, he was getting told incorrect password. And he's like, it's not. And then so I was thinking, okay, their servers are getting hit hard. And about 5 minutes later, we get that splash graphic with, the bunny trying to lift the weight saying, our servers are under load right now. I'm like, oh man, this is rich right now. This is rich, considering the fact that last week when people could not get their hands on a PlayStation 5, they were going, oh, you can't just drop pre-orders like that. Really? Let me make something very, very clear right now. Last week, when the presentation ended, and I asked the boys in the chat, when do you think pre-orders are going live? And Betson said around about midday. Paul, you said about tomorrow. I said
and at that point I took Jeff Keighley's word for it. So I'm like, okay,
I said
tomorrow will be the day.
I said it's going to be this morning, 8 a.m. And the only reason I said that was based off prior years. Because what it is EB Games didn't have to listen to Sony or anybody else to open up those pre-orders. They could open them up at any time and queue a line, essentially. JB Hi-Fi have been doing this now for a couple of weeks. They've had Xbox Series X pre-orders open, taking down payments of $50 on each order and putting you in a queue. What that means essentially is that when pre-orders had opened officially, anybody who was at the top of the list ends up in the queue automatically now. So now what happens is that anybody who's with JB Hi-Fi, what they do is they over pre-order, they oversell their pre-orders, so you end up at the back of the line anyway. So regardless, you're not guaranteed to get that day one. However, if you were lucky enough to be on the top of the list, day one, congratulations. You got lucky through them. The best thing about today was press start, letting me know that Target had stock. And that's when I jumped on it.
A lot of people, and hopefully I'm in that boat as well, lucked out with Target.
Yeah, so I chose delivery. I wanted delivery for my PS5, but there was a bit of a bungle there, so I got to click and collect for that one. But it's confirmed to be launch, which is good. But I got delivery. I chose delivery for my Xbox, and it was confirmed Immediately. Myself and Drew from the House of Mario confirmed immediately. What I noticed, though, was the people who were choosing click and collect were having to wait, which is your case at the moment. And
Still me.
Yeah. And Matt's.
And Matt hasn't got confirmation either, as far as I know.
Right. So there have been a couple of people who have. I know that Brady Gibbons just tweeted out that he got a confirmation email. So it's just a case right now where it's a case-by-case scenario where also store allocation comes into play and whether certain stores will be getting stock or not. And the problem is I take what Wario64 said in account for here, and I think, okay, fine, EB Games might not be getting like all the allocation here. And I also thought to myself, shit, Telstra is in the game as well here. They would have bought out an entire fucking pallet just to make sure that people are signing up for contracts.
Yeah.
And that's the other issue too. So
it's being stretched so much more thin than what happened with PlayStation and what's ever happened before.
Yeah.
And not to mention, obviously, the numbers will be less because of what COVID's done to this year as well. So there was a few things conspiring against them there, but what it's really shown, and to an extent, you and I were not nearly as critical as some corners of the internet were. But there was people, critical about the PlayStation thing, and we were a little bit, could have been a little bit better. They could have been a little bit more transparent when it was going to go. I completely walked back everything I said.
No, I don't care. I do not. Like, I've always said it. I said it on Generosity as well, which is a charity stream. You snooze, you lose. Bad luck. That's just the case.
Like, I've totally come around to that, because look what happens when you give people warning.
Yeah.
And I would say, like, and eBay reflected it in the half hour afterwards, that there was so many more Xboxes listed on eBay than there were PS5s. And it's because of the fact that everyone had time to get, like, anyone who's going down that dirty path, you fuckwits, managed to get all their ducks in a row and was just ready to snipe that thing the moment it went live.
Look at this.
And PlayStation didn't do that. It was bang on the money. And look at the prices on them too.
I'm pulling up a listing right now on eBay, right? $5,000 starting price, $5,000. That's just ridiculous.
Are there any bids on it?
No, there's no bids. But that says something where PlayStation 5, the scalp was there, one sold at $20,099.
Well, I mean, look, that's stupid from whoever that person is. But at the same time, there'd be far less of them as well because of the nature of how they rolled out. Yes, there's people who are unlucky. They went to sleep and missed it or something like that. But more people have genuinely been able to access the console than people who genuinely access the Xbox.
You said that was silly, right? Here we go. Here's one. 11 bids. You want to take a guess?
Is it greater than 5K?
Yes.
10?
Yeah.
20?
No.
15?
No. 11,100 at 15 bids. Sorry. Now, it's starting to go up.
These people have got too much money.
Well, it's ridiculous. $11,000 just to nab an Xbox Series X.
But again, my concern isn't how much people are paying, because some people have more, greater means than others when it comes to finances.
All right.
My specific issue is around the number of the consoles that have been available for Xbox versus PlayStation. It's because of how they decided to roll it out. It's because Xbox gave everyone time. Now that's great and it's very consumer facing and it's a nice gesture. And to be fair, and I even think about my tweeting over the course of the day, all of my frustration wasn't directed at Xbox.
No.
It was directed at EB Games. It was directed at the retailer because of their shitty online and all that sort of thing. But when I think about it, on a greater level, this boils down to Xbox in a lot of ways. And, as much as it's a really nice gesture, you've also given all the people who want to take advantage of you the perfect outlet.
Yeah.
And they did. It's going to happen overseas, and it's going to be like, I think there's a lot of people that are going to come around and go, actually, PlayStation gave the greatest number of people potential access to it than what Xbox has done.
There's
and
a
it
listing
shows because it was the site that shut down. Like, there's not that many. The Bethesda news didn't send that many people to buy an Xbox.
No, not at all.
Because most people hadn't, your general consumer probably didn't know at that particular point yet.
No.
People were queuing up because they wanted an Xbox, but they're not as plentiful as they were PlayStations, and we've seen all the little anecdotal pieces of data around the internet that shows that PS5 is the one that most people want.
Yeah. Rightly
or wrongly. Doesn't matter. Like, check the bias at the door there. Rightly or wrongly, more people want a PlayStation.
It's true though. Like,
and yet they didn't have the same issue, and it's because of how they rolled it out. Now,
that's how they handled it.
You can be unlucky and miss out. That sucks. It's a real shame, and I feel for anyone who missed out. But they gave people a chance, and this didn't happen today because they just got snapped up by snipers.
So they released a second shipment, or they released the same shipment, the post-launch shipment, but a second wave of them later in the afternoon, as you said, at 6. But they didn't announce it on their socials.
They did.
Oh, they did?
They did, but they didn't say it's coming. They just said, hey, it's available now.
Oh, okay.
Which is kind of what you want, because the snipers aren't looking for it. They're not ready for it.
Yeah, I guess it just came out of nowhere.
That's what EB did with PlayStation. They said, hey, they're available now. And people went and got them. And I'm sure a few snipers did, and people are reselling or whatever.
Yeah.
But because they said, hey, you've got days and weeks to get yourself ready for this, that's where it all fell apart.
All right, so
bad move, Xbox.
Like what you're hearing today? Be sure to follow all Dash Gamer podcasts on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify by simply typing dashgamer.com into the search bar of your favorite podcast provider. And don't forget to check out our gaming, anime, and pop culture related news on dashgamer.com. Now back to the show.
So speaking of the PlayStation pre-order, and I'm going to put in quotes now, bungle, because it wasn't really. Shannon over at Press Start reports PlayStation has apologized for the PS5 pre-orders and promised more stock will come. Sony has apologized for the way that PS5 pre-orders went down and said that more pre-orders will become available with stock arriving deep into the holiday season. It's important to note that this is likely only a true statement for the US. Australian pre-orders were handled differently, with retailers such as EB Games taking waves of pre-orders up until early 2021. So even if more stock were to become available, and I don't think it will, he says, then it will likely go to those who have already paid a deposit beyond launch. Now, I did cover this on Dash Gamer podcast with Betson over the weekend. But now the take's kind of changed. Obviously, what was discussed prior was like, well, yeah, they could have handled it differently, more opportunity for people, the yada yada yada. There is that problem right now where scalpers have snapped up a lot of these consoles and are reselling them on eBay.
Look what happens when you give people opportunity.
But that's the thing. Like, there's been opportunity. That's the thing, though. There's been more opportunity for consumers to actually get their hands on one than what there has been with this Xbox situation.
Yeah,
I'm still. And I don't want to point fingers here at a specific company, Telstra, but I'm still in the firm belief that Telstra had snapped up a lot of the units to sell them or to contract them and bundle them.
No, I'm not of that mind. I'd imagine whatever the go is with the all access here is proportional to whatever's going on overseas.
Well, how is it that people were snapping them up so easily after they were sold out like that on EB Games' website? They were jumping over to Telstra and saying, oh, I got it through Telstra, and I got it through Telstra.
But because the demand was all based on EB Games, EB had this, and to their credit, it's why I didn't bounce across to anywhere else, is because they had these amazing trade-in deals that kind of, like, I'm going to brute force my way through this. And it didn't happen.
It's just incentive.
Whilst there's other people that didn't have that same incentive or didn't see the dollar signs. Like, I'm looking at it going, I can save $600 by trading in my old Xboxes here to get this thing.
Yeah.
But I can't do that. It's just wasted money if I go across to Telstra, and I'm paying full price for the console.
Yeah, I understand.
So, like, there's those sort of things. So it gave people an outlet to go over to Telstra, and it's no use. Like, scalpers can't use a platform like that. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
Because they'll just get busted very quickly. It doesn't work out for them. So I've got no problem with the Telstra situation. I'm sure it's got to be proportional to the rest of the world. It's another factor in there that would have diminished the overall number.
Yeah.
But it's nothing the rest of the world hasn't experienced either. And because PlayStation doesn't do that, it just meant there was more consoles available for anyone off the street.
All right, Padge, let's start doing some rapid fire. This one comes by way of Andy Robertson over at VGC, who says, Series S style consoles have not had a great result, says PlayStation boss Jim Ryan, who claims Sony considered a lower spec PS5 but decided it would be too problematic. PlayStation considered a lower spec PS5 console similar to Xbox Series S, but feared it would quickly become obsolete. CEO Jim Ryan has said, speaking to Japanese site AV Watch, the execs said that based on Sony's research, quote, low price, reduced spec, end quote, consoles had, quote, not had great results in the past, end quote. He goes on to say, the first thing I would like to say is that I respect every competitor's decision and their philosophy, as Ryan said. Quote, clearly price is a very important factor. We respect other companies' competitive strategies. However, we are fully committed to and believe in our current strategy and the effect it will have. He goes on, one thing that can be said is that if you look at the history of the game business, creating a special low price reduced spec console is something that has not had great results in the past.
Including for themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
With the lesser SKU for the PS3.
Oh, the 12 gig one.
20.
Was the 12 gig one?
60 and 20 at launch.
Oh, yeah, at launch. I'm talking like later on, yeah.
Oh, yeah, later on, yeah. But
yeah, exactly.
the things, yeah.
We've considered that option and seen other executives who have attempted this discover how problematic it is. Look, he's right. And it was the one thing that when you said today, oh, I pre-ordered the S, my response to you was, why? Just keep your X.
No. So it was because I didn't have a guarantee with an X, and the S was all based around being able to get my trade.
No. I mean the One X is what I said.
Oh no, yeah. So it was all about the trade-in stuff. Like I was basically going to get if nothing else worked out for me, then I was going to get a free Series S, which is better in a few respects, lesser in other ways, but better in a few other key respects. So that was fine for me. Now it's just a trade tool. So matter.
Exactly. Look, I think Series S has some benefits, but I believe that if you are an owner of a One X, just keep that with you, because they've already confirmed that everything that's coming to Series S is basically just the One X version. So, and plus you get the disk drive on the One X. Moving on, Cal Jeffrey over at TechSpot says, PlayStation 5 Digital Edition consoles reportedly in a short supply. Unless Sony significantly increases availability over the next few days, it's going to become a scalper's paradise, they say. Last week, retailers sold out of their pre-order allotment in less than 24 hours, with some believing that they won't get any more before launch day. This week, Amazon notified customers with PS5 pre-orders that they might not even get their order on launch day. The situation might even be compounded for those wishing to get their hands on PlayStation 5 Digital Edition. Ars Technica reports that initial unit allotments were light on the cheaper console. An assessment of inventory samples from several GameStop stores in the US show that the disk drive free units only made up for a small fraction, less than 1/4 of the systems available. So this is an interesting figure, considering the fact that Sony really... Well, look, Xbox and Sony are probably trying to push the ideology, I guess, that they want to head towards an all-digital future. And the fact that they're kind of maybe imposing that on customers rather than forcing it on customers. It's interesting. What's your take?
Look, the ratio doesn't surprise me that much, and you only have to think about our own circles and just check the Twitter feeds after the PlayStations went on sale, and even the series went on sale for Xbox today. Everyone's getting the ones with the disc drives because it's greater compatibility, whether it's so they can use their old Blu-rays, whether they can pop their old discs for whether it's on Xbox or PlayStation in. There's some of us that maybe lent into digital more so than others during this past generation, or don't feel like they care about the backwards compatibility aspect in terms of being able to pop their old discs in. So they're happy to transition across. What we'll get is similar to what we're seeing in terms of the transition from physical to digital at retail these days. We're going to see that gradually occur with the subsequent generations of consoles or mid-step consoles or whatever the case happens to be as this generation plays out.
Yeah.
It doesn't surprise me the ratio is what it is. It's a shame if there's more people that were looking to go digital that can't. But you still, like, if you get a disc drive and you want to go digital, fine. Like, there's nothing stopping you. You've just got a bonus disc drive as well. It just makes you more versatile. And I think that, like, a lot of the arguments from a lot of people was, well, I want the disc drive for versatility. Nothing more. They're not. They might have the intent of going all digital. But
yeah, but are you talking about within our circles?
Oh, I think across the board. Like, you know, even just chatting to some of my students, and, you know, again, this is anecdotal, but like, they're like, well, I've got old discs, I can still use them. Or maybe and then if I throw myself into my position, like, I want to go digital as much as I can, but when old collector's edition James, fires up for Uncharted 5 or whatever the case happens to be, well, you bet your bottom dollar I'm going to go and get the fancy edition. And unless, and we've seen teasers of this over the journey in recent years, unless we're getting collector's editions that come without the disc, so then I can just, or maybe it comes with a digital code or whatever, then you're not going to tempt me out of buying that physical collector's edition because I want the, whatever the goodies happen to be.
Yeah.
And so if I've got a digital console but I get a disc, what am I supposed to do with it? I have to buy another copy of the game, which is a hard argument to make.
Yeah.
In a family of soon to be 4.
Yeah. No, I understand where you're coming from.
Versatility, I think, is key.
Oh, yeah, no, definitely. This one comes by way of Sammy Barker. I covered this one with Betson as well over on the Dash Cam podcast. But Horizon Forbidden West, built from the ground up for PS5, he says. Here's a head scratch from everyone's favourite video game executive, Jim Ryan. Horizon Forbidden West has been built from the ground up for PlayStation 5, except as was revealed earlier in the week, the game is also coming to PlayStation 4. We don't know quite how it will work, but here's what the PlayStation boss told Washington Post, quote, "No one should be disappointed about Horizon coming to PS4. The PlayStation 5 versions of the game are built from the ground up to take advantage of the PS5 feature set, and we have an upgrade path for PS4 users to get the PS5 version for free. It's about people having choice. I'm really quite pleased about this situation." Now,
liar.
Yeah, well, look, a lot of people are claiming PlayStation have been lying to them now just to kind of goat them into pre-ordering the next-gen unit. Do you believe that?
No, I don't know. Not in that respect. No. But in the specific case of Horizon here, he's straight up lying because I've heard more than enough people who have plenty of good connections that have said, no, the game was in development for PS4. They were shooting for this gen. They were probably shooting for this year, give or take. And then... it transitioned into next year, at which point the console surfaced. Okay, let's turn it into a PS5 game and then scale back what we need to scale back to turn it into a PS4 game as well.
So do you think
their ambition changed at some point, but the initial intent was to release a game on the PS4.
So with that said, you reckon that Jim's lying and this was optimized for PS4 or PS5?
Oh, no, it's 100% optimized for PS5 now, but their initial design intention when they started working on Horizon 2, whatever it was going to become at the very initial conception was it was supposed to be a PS4 game.
Yep.
And that checks out. I mean, it's been 3 years since, what are we, 20... Oh, we're getting to the back end of 2020 now. So it's, it's been 3.5 years already. Like, it's more than enough time to see the sequel to it, but it didn't happen.
Yeah.
And that's probably because at some point, maybe something slowed them down. Sony's gone, hey, PS5, we're shooting for 2020. So maybe you'd consider turning your game into a PS5 game. And of course, it's a guerrilla title where visuals, like the visuals from that Decima engine, are phenomenal.
Yeah,
you can be a showpiece for it. Herman's been promoted to head of Worldwide Studios.
Yeah.
A whole bunch of things kind of going on there that just make sense. Okay, let's pivot a little bit.
Yeah.
Turn this thing to a PS5 game, and then investigate what we need to do to pare it back and turn it into a PS4 game after the fact.
Yeah.
Not even after the fact. It's going to be simultaneous at the end. But
I agree.
They've revised a few times here.
No, I agree with you. Padge, the final story comes by way of Liam Croft over at Push Square, who says, Capcom confirms 2-hour presentation for Tokyo Game Show features Resident Evil Village and Devil May Cry 5 Special Edition. There was an update to this article, but I'll quickly read the original story. It looks like we're getting from 0 to 100 with Resident Evil Village, as Capcom has just announced that it will host a digital showcase focused on the upcoming PlayStation 5 game during Tokyo Game Show. We already knew that the latest entry in the horror franchise would be putting in an appearance there, but it looks like we'll be getting much more than just another trailer or glimpse of the next-gen gameplay. The presentation will reportedly take place Sunday, September 27th at 1 p.m. BST. I don't know what BST is.
British Standard Time.
Oh, there you go. That's right. And 5 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, with the first hour dedicated to providing a proper Resident Evil Village introduction. I should have known. I've said British Standard Time on this website before. In an update to this article, Capcom has now officially revealed its Tokyo Game Show plans, and it looks like what was originally reported by other sites isn't bang on the money. The Japanese publisher will indeed have a 2-hour slot, but alongside Resident Evil Village will also be Devil May Cry 5 Special Edition. The official site reads, quote, "In the first segment, we will welcome the development team and bring you the untold stories behind the development of Resident Evil Village and the latest info on the Resident Evil series. In the second segment, we will welcome special guest Aiko Kano for a guest talk segment," end quote. Meanwhile, Devil May Cry 5 Special Edition will debut gameplay. Now, okay, fair enough. We've seen the gameplay. It's on PlayStation 4. They're just extending it with Virgil. That's cool. We're getting Virgil.
Look, all this is on top of the fact that they've also now got Monster Hunter for the Switch, the 2 titles there to show off. So they've got a 2-hour segment. It's going to be half an hour of Resident Evil, and that's going to be spliced up between Q&A and a presenter, and then actually showing off the game. So probably expect 20 minutes maybe of gameplay. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Because if it was going to be 2 hours, that's you're talking a fifth, a sixth of the game. That's a large chunk of the game to show off to people.
Yeah, they're pushing it.
So 20 minutes seems about right.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I think look, they've got an okay presentation with they've got a pretty strong presentation there with Resi. An okay presentation with Devil May Cry and whatever they have in between, but yeah, fair enough. I mean, look, I'll be honest with you. Events like this year have been a little bit we've seen that with E3 spread out the entire year, and then you have PAX that has been just there, I guess. But whatever, we'll see what happens, I guess, with Tokyo Game Show this year. It might actually exceed expectations, but I doubt it. PlayStation. All right, Paige, it's time for the PlayStation pick this week, and it is my turn. So once again, it was a last-minute choice, but it was an easy one to make, honestly, because my love for JRPGs. Shut up, would you? No. Nier Automata, or as some people say, Nier Automata, or Nier Ultimatos, all the memes. Nier Automata is an excellent title. Obviously, it's not an exclusive to PlayStation anymore, but it was a PlayStation exclusive at the start. One of the best titles that I can think of, but one of the most underrated as well, in a way that a lot of people pick up a game, they purchase the title, they played it for a bit, and never went back to it. Now's the time to revisit Nier Automata. If you have not completed the title, now's the time. Exactly. And I know, and I'm not just pointing fingers at you, Patch. I'm saying that there's a lot of people who've done the same. They've picked up the title, have not completed it. I'm the same.
What?
Yeah, I haven't completed it. I have not completed Nier Automata. So this is my own call out as well.
Because this is because of the multiple playthroughs, right?
Well, the problem is the problem with Nier Automata is that it came out at a time where everything was coming out. You had
Horizon, Breath of the Wild,
Zelda,
Persona.
And then these are all titles that took up hundreds of hours. So, and then you had Nier Automata, another 100 hours. It's there's only so much I can take.
And for a lot of people, it was a lesser priority because it was a sequel. It was looking quite good, but a sequel to a kind of ho-hum, it's okay title in the original Nier. So I don't blame people for necessarily putting it fourth in that list, and there would have been other stuff that we're just not thinking of, but Correct. It was a crazy start to 2017.
Exactly. And it's a magnificent title. One that should not be looked over or missed if you have not had the chance to experience its gorgeous displays and its excellent gameplay. I have had enough time with the title, around about 30 hours, to know how wonderful it is. For those who have essentially missed out, fine, but now is the time, especially with the fact that they are revisiting the first title in the remake that they're about to release.
Yep.
This is not...
Do we have an ETA for that, by the way?
Sorry, what was that?
Do we have an ETA on that remake, Replicant?
I'm not exactly sure, but I'll quickly...
I'll take a look for you.
Yeah, go for it.
Keep talking.
With Replicant coming out, essentially what it is a love letter to Automata. And for people that have not experienced, the wondrous world around, and our protagonist to be, and it's just one of those things where I love this game, but I still haven't finished it, and I really want to. It's just a time thing.
Still no release date yet. They were hoping for 2020, but who knows what this year's done to that. So.
Yeah, exactly. So look, if anything, with Replicant on the horizon, now is the time to kind of go back, especially now with kind of like some time in between now to PS5, considering we've only really got one major release between now and PS5. 2, 3? What do you mean?
2 to 3.
Well, we'll talk Crash,
Star Wars, depending on whether you want to play it on next gen.
Did you just put Star Wars in there?
Mate, Star Wars is one of the biggest franchises ever. You can't argue it.
Crash,
quality is, and then debatable, but in my eyes, but Watch Dogs.
Oh, okay, but Watch Dogs is also a day one release for next gen, isn't it?
Yeah, but it also comes out October 29th, so people who want to play it earlier can play it earlier.
But is it
And
also
most
upgradable to next gen?
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. But there you go. Look, Nier Automata is definitely my pick. It's one of the best JRPGs I've ever played. It's astonishing in graphics. The melodies that are accompanied by it's gorgeous overture. Look, you can't skip it. So yeah, Nier Automata is definitely my PlayStation pick for the week. All right, Paige, time for the PlayStation operation. What is it?
So we're building on the Bethesda news from this morning.
Okay.
And I think it was maybe like a second episode.
This
I'm going to check
morning?
now. Third episode.
Last night.
Yeah, time zones last night. Sorry, yeah, good point. We're in a vacuum. Yesterday.
Yep.
Reflecting on the Bethesda news from yesterday. And I just did a quick look. In the third episode of this show, I spoke about how PlayStation needed to go and buy Kojima Productions. Fuck Kojima Productions. Maybe add them into this. They need to start splashing some cash. Now, they don't have $7.5 billion like Xbox does, or Microsoft does more specifically. They really leveraged the 1 point something trillion dollar company and threw a lot of money out there. PlayStation can't manage that. But they need to start, and the first signs were there with the Final Fantasy 16 reveal. They need to start reaching out and snapping up. They're not going to be able to buy a whole publisher.
No, of course not.
Most likely, presumably. They need to start buying some IP, buying some studios. People have been speculating about Konami. They might need to make that true. Now, people said buy Konami. I think people forget that Konami also makes the bulk of their money for things that aren't gaming. So PlayStation aren't going to do that. They need to just buy up the gaming division.
What about Square Enix?
Square Enix would be a very good one, but the question mark I've got over them is the fact that they are falling deeper and deeper in love with the Switch these days.
Yeah, I've noticed that.
And so, if PlayStation's willing to allow them to do that in a similar way that Xbox allows some of their studios to work with Nintendo, then fine.
That won't happen.
Because neither of them see Nintendo as competition.
Yeah.
But Sony is a bit more traditional and ultimately just Japanese in that respect, and they want to keep things locked down, and our product is our product.
Yeah.
So it's going to be tricky to pry them away, but there is something there with what we're seeing with Avengers, what we're seeing with Final Fantasy 16, what we've seen even with Deus Ex when it came out, like Tomb Raider when it got the fancy editions there, when it finally came across after their deal. Like there's enough going on with Square Enix and PlayStation for it to be feasible, but it's a huge asking price.
How much? How much do you reckon they should splash? Because we just saw a $7.5 billion deal go down. Like each of these companies will be asking for something like that now.
Yeah,
and that's not feasible for Sony.
That's not feasible for Sony. The problem is that there's a benchmark that's now been set. Now, you'd argue that Square Enix has got they've got even more studios. The caliber is debatable. But they've got this wonderful mix of Western studios and Japanese studios, which is not really what Xbox is getting here with Bethesda. Tango is the exception. And even that's a horror game, so it doesn't even have the same reach as a JRPG of some sort, like a Final Fantasy. They would be a really good get, but I think it's going to be a case of them really leaning into, I'm going to cherry pick this studio and this studio and this studio. The weird thing that we've seen with PlayStation over the course of the last decade is they've been culling studios. As much as they acquired Insomniac, they've been culling studios. We saw Evolution die, and some of these are dated now, but Evolution and Big, and there's a whole bunch of studios that they killed off. Guerrilla Cambridge. There's studios that have died off along the way there, and maybe they needed to, but they're now going to need to kind of top up their banks. They need to diversify. All this stuff that we've been talking about where, as brilliant as they are making the same sorts of games over and over. They need to do more to diversify the portfolio, lure people in, because again, this goes back to what we said earlier in the episode. You know what you're getting from Xbox now. Like there's a huge swath of Western RPGs. There's a massive chunk of first-person shooters, but then around that, they are still diversifying. You do have Gears, which does some stuff a bit different. You've got some really top-tier racing games. There's other genres that are being tapped into here. Rare doing whatever the hell Rare does. Like they're just an enigma. But PlayStation doesn't really have that too much.
No.
And they need to pick up studios. If nothing else, just nab one, like not even a publisher, just nab a studio in the near future and make a statement to go, well, we're not going to get walked over here. Because this is a huge optics win for Xbox, what's occurred yesterday. And they need to do something just to show the world that they're not going to get stomped all over. Now, I would argue when Xbox went on their buying spree and they picked up Ninja Theory and they picked up Obsidian, that when PlayStation turned around and bought Insomniac, they've kind of flopped the dick on the table and go, no, we got the best of the lot. Like, fuck you guys, we trumped you. And they did. But, Xbox was still kind of building at that point, and they got themselves to a point where the question would get asked, once they're all up and firing, because the exclusives are still going to take a long time. Once they get up and firing, they could be somewhat comparable.
Yeah.
And then PlayStation picked up Insomniac and said, well, no, here you go. Now here's a studio that can churn 2 or 3 out every 2 years on top of what we already have going. It was the cherry on top deal for them.
I agree.
But Xbox has smashed them out of the ballpark here, and they need to act. They need to pick off a few studios.
Yeah, there needs to be retaliation.
The Remedy thing is, one that people constantly suggest, and whilst that it would be more of the same, they would be a gettable studio, and it's PlayStation saying, again, we won't get walked all over here.
I agree with you, man. I think it's going to be a big, big move. It's a game of chess, essentially, and PlayStation now need to make their move.
And I mean, like, I tweeted out this morning, and this was when everything was still fresh in my head over the Bethesda news. I'm like, okay, because I'd looked through my feed, and there was a trending thing about buying Konami and all that sort of thing. Again, I've already discussed that. But let's say they bought the IP from Konami. The 3 biggest, so I guess Metal Gear, Silent Hill, Castlevania, like they're great. If you go and buy Capcom, they're 3 biggest: Street Fighter, Monster Hunter, and Resident Evil. The latest entries in any of the Konami combination or the Capcom combination, the top selling the 3 most recent entries in those from those companies would be less than, and this is just purely sales, less than the sales of Skyrim alone.
Yeah.
Like, Bethesda is Microsoft has won out so much here on a financial standpoint just because they just need to put out Elder Scrolls 6 and they'll make $7-point-something billion back. But, there's no one out there that has that sort of reach. Yeah. So you're going to have to go with little individual, cherry-picking jobs. You go up to CD Projekt and go, hey, what can we do here? You go and tap Remedy on the shoulder. You need to pick out teams here that you're not going to get a whole publisher. They can't do it. So they need to do smaller deals where it's more accessible, because the package is what bumped up the price for Bethesda here.
Yeah.
But if you can cherry pick studios, you might be able to pay an Insomniac style price. Now Insomniac, I think, went for unders. They probably could have doubled that asking price.
Oh yeah, definitely.
They might need to pay $500 million to get CD Projekt, for example, or $500 million to get Remedy, or $500 million to get someone else, it's been a long time since we've seen it. But even like swaps, IP swaps, or developer swaps, those you're probably not going to get a swap, because what studios do you want to take out of PlayStation? But they're going to have to get funny here to try and pry teams out from under other publishers, or really go hard and start identifying key talent that you can bring in, because they need to make a statement. They need to make it pretty quick.
All right, Padge, time for the drop, and we're going to get through this quick because I'm falling asleep here. For fuck's sake, I can't believe it. Like 7 a.m. and I'm dying. I got up at 7 right? Padge, what's in this week's drop?
You mentioned 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim earlier on. That game is available yesterday, as of when you're viewing this. Yeah. Port Royale 4, September 25th. Mafia Definitive Edition, September 25th. And then some games we mentioned before, Star Wars Squadrons on October 2nd, and Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time, cool. October 2nd as well.
Yeah, I can't wait for Crash. Definitely excited for Crash.
You're an ignorant man, Dash.
Mafia's out this week too. That'll be exciting. Guys, if you didn't know, this has been Operation PlayStation-Gamer.com's dedicated PlayStation podcast, where we dive deep and dirty and discover what the latest and greatest PlayStation, maybe a little bit of Xbox this week, have to offer. including Next Gen Gaming. If you like what you heard today, make sure you follow Mr. Paul James on Twitter at Paul James Games. You can follow myself on Twitter at DashGamer. Don't forget to follow the show over on SoundCloud, iTunes, and Spotify. Give us those cheeky 5-star ratings. They surely help us out. And also catch the VOD over on dashgamer.com and on YouTube. Subscribe, hit that bell, give us a comment, leave us a like. Surely helps us out. Padge, what an eventful week it's been.
Holy shit. At least, look, there's consoles on order. I may not get a day one for the Xbox, but I've got the important one down, so who cares?
That's right.
I can take a breath.
Guys, we'll see you in 2 weeks. Just a heads up, no Dash Gamer podcast next week. We're taking a break. Myself and Padge will be back in 2 weeks for another Ops, depending on this guy and his baby situation by then as well. So I'll let you guys know. If not, I'll have somebody to fill in for him. More than likely, I'll probably ask Mr. John O'Peck to come in, and because I still owe him an episode. But guys, until then, take care of each other. But this operation is complete.
DashGamer.com